It was just after dawn when the quiet streets of Collinsville, Illinois, were shattered by gunfire. Portia Rowland, 32, collapsed near her garage, bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds. The brutal slaying stunned her neighbors, but the truth behind her murder was even more disturbing. This was no random crime. It was a hit. A carefully planned murder-for-hire plot fueled by jealousy, obsession, and revenge. As police unraveled the case, they uncovered a deadly love triangle and a sinister contract that sealed Rowland's fate.
We believe it was a targeted attack.
This was not a random act of violence, but rather this was a calculated and cold-hearted murder-for-hire scheme based on a personal grievance.
On January 21, 2025, at approximately 6 a.m., residents of the 1300 block of Olive Street in Collinsville, Illinois, were jolted awake by the sound of gunfire. Moments later, silence fell over the neighborhood again. When police arrived at the scene, they found Portia Rowland lying motionless near her garage, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. She had been shot at close range, an execution-style killing. Paramedics attempted to revive her, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. There was no sign of robbery and no immediate suspect. However, investigators quickly realized this was not a random attack. Someone wanted Portia dead. Detectives with the Major Case Squad of Greater St. Louis began interviewing Rowland's family, friends, and neighbors, searching for any leads. Please subscribe to our channel and make comments about what you think of our videos. Soon, they discovered a motive buried in a volatile love triangle. Rowland had been in a relationship with Sammy Shafer, the estranged wife of 36-year-old Sammy J. Shafer Jr. This revelation changed the direction of the investigation completely. According to police, Sammy Shafer was enraged over his wife's new relationship. He refused to accept that she had moved on, and his anger grew into an obsession. Over time, his resentment hardened into a deadly plan for revenge. Instead of confronting Rowland himself, Shafer allegedly orchestrated a murder-for-hire plot to have her eliminated. Investigators discovered that Shafer had offered $10,000 to have Rowland killed, but he didn't intend to pull the trigger himself. Instead, he allegedly hired his employee, 33-year-old Marty D. to carry out the hit. However, Shaw, rather than committing the murder himself, recruited his cousin, 45-year-old Gary D. Johnson, to do the job. A murder plot had been set in motion. In the early morning hours of January 21st, Johnson arrived at Rowland's home, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As she stepped outside, gunfire rang out. Rowland was shot multiple times and collapsed near her garage. The assassin then fled the scene, leaving her lifeless body behind. Neighbors, startled by the gunshots, rushed to their windows and immediately called 911. Within hours, investigators were piecing together the crime, but they had no idea just how twisted the case would become. With no immediate suspects at the scene, police turned to surveillance footage, phone records, and witness statements. As they traced Rowland's recent interactions, they began to see a pattern. All signs pointed back to Sammy Shafer. Please subscribe to our channel and make comments about what you think of our videos. Detectives learned about Shafer's bitter resentment toward Rowland and how he had expressed anger over his wife's new relationship. As they dug deeper, they found concrete evidence linking him to the crime. Just days after Rowland's murder, authorities arrested Sammy J. Shafer Jr., charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of solicitation of murder for hire.
I promised him that the Collinsville Police Department and the Major Case Squad would do everything in their power to hold those responsible for Portia's senseless death accountable and bring them to justice. Today, I'm extremely proud to say that we kept that promise.
Prosecutors say he masterminded the entire plot and paid for Rowland's assassination. Marty D. charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Investigators say he acted as the middleman, organizing the hit. Gary D. Johnson, charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Police believe he was the actual shooter, pulling the trigger that ended Rowland's life. Madison County State's Attorney Tom Hain called the crime one of the most cold-hearted and premeditated acts of violence the region had seen in years.
We filed a petition to deny pretrial release in. Those hearings on whether to deny them pretrial release will take place over the next few days. And if they're granted, they will then remain in the custody of Madison County at the Madison County Jail during the pendency of their case. We have argued that they pose a continued threat to public safety should they remain on the streets.
As the investigation continued, Rowland's friends and family were left devastated. She was remembered as a kind and outgoing woman who never met a stranger. Her tragic death not only shattered her loved ones, but also shook the Collinsville community, leaving many wondering how jealousy and rage could escalate into something so deadly.
I think they want Portia's life to be what people focus on, not how her life ended. She would just really pursue excellence in everything she did, whether that was athletics or academics or her job with the sewer district. I've met with hundreds of families at this point to plan funerals, and I know everyone is precious, but I was not prepared for Portia. Like, I wasn't prepared for how highly they spoke of her. She just seemed like a really extraordinary person.
As the suspects await trial, the case continues to gain national attention. If convicted, Shafer, Shaw, and Johnson all face life in prison. Prosecutors have not ruled out seeking the death penalty. Meanwhile, Rowland's loved ones are left grappling with an unimaginable loss. She was simply living her life, moving forward in a new relationship. But for Sammy Shafer, that was something he could never allow. Instead of walking away, he chose to destroy her, hiring killers to do what he couldn't. Now, as the legal battle begins, one question remains. Will justice be served? Please subscribe to our channel and make comments about what you think of our videos.